Hey guys, welcome to another day on the shop. Today, we're back at it with a Camaro. Alright, so today we're going to be working on this thing a little bit. If you watched one of the last videos, I got it up and running, went and registered it, and with a rebuilt 350 that I have, it started spewing oil everywhere up underneath. I have oil still just dripping out off the block right now. As well as I did have one of my exhaust headers catch on fire a little bit down there, and we'll get a light and shine down on there. I've got to get tonight I've got to get this hood off, the headers off, the valve covers off, the carb off, and I want to do a compression test and a leak down test. I want to see why this thing is having such bad crank pressure, because that's my issue right now. Is the oil pressure, crank pressure is way too high and is blowing all my seals out. So other than that, at a standing idle, it sounds great, no leaks whatsoever. As soon as I started driving it around and getting up to 3,000 RPMs and higher, it just exploded with oil everywhere. So yeah, that's the joys of today. We're gonna get like I said, stuff moved out of the way and everything ready to go for that, and eventually we're gonna get the motor on a motor stand and run it on the motor stand, probably after we tear it all the way down and rebuild it again. Like I have my list right here: compression check, leak down test, pull engine, tear down, rebuild again. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's jump over here. All right, so I got me a basically a Harbor Freight the professional deluxe, the deluxe kit for compression testing. It comes with a lot of different adapters and everything else. I love this thing. It works for every application I have. Out of 9 vehicles, so 11 vehicles, 12 vehicles, that's how many I have now. So it works for all of them, and this is what we're going to be using. But the easiest way to do this is we got to pull the headers off to get to the plugs and have a straight line for this and for the leak down tester. So this is my little leak down tester I got off Amazon, and pretty simple. I'll explain it on how to use it once we get there. So let's get to tearing this thing down a little bit so I can get in there. Almost forgot to mention my order from Speedway Motors that I talked about before with my door panels. I got my armrest in. I haven't unpeeled them and gotten the plastic off yet, but these are replica reproductions. So that's going to help with my little armrest with a tear in it. As well as I had to order some inserts for my doors from, where is that? Camaro Parts World off eBay. These are originals off an 80-ish Camaro for the inner door or outer door seals. So I don't like that big old hole that it has. And then if you've ever heard of a tool roll, this is my official tool roll. This is the extra large. I really enjoy this. It's got 5 pockets in it, made of really rugged material. You can hang it up if you need to, by the handle, by these little things. You can roll it up like this. You can strap it from the back with that. But I have most of all my get around tools in here, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll put them in the link in the description below, so if you want to check them out or anything and get your own official tool roll, you can, because it does keep my tools quiet and readily available, because it is a separate toolkit that I keep, and it's specifically for stuff like jumping in this old Camaro and getting down the road and blowing it up. So let's get back to it. All right, so pretty quick strip down. Headers are off, one's tied out of the way, one's just pushed down. Did the exhaust, did the carb, did the plugs, did the wires, and yeah, so everything's out of the way. It's not going to start, it has no ignition and no carburetor. And the fuel line is blocked off, as well as we have all our plugs right there. We also still have bags. This is the best thing in the world. Invest in some bags to stay organized, because believe me, if you throw them all in a bin, I'll show you what that looks like. This is about 7 different brands of cars, if not more, of bolts and random other tidbits. I couldn't tell you what car they go to. I couldn't tell you anything about them other than the fact of some go to a 240, some go to a Camaro, some go to a Ford pickup, some go to a Ford Expedition. They go everywhere. I don't have a clue where they all go. If I have one random laying around and I need it, I find it in that pile, which takes me forever to go through already, then I have what I need. So we're gonna get testing this. We're gonna pop in this little compression tester. So if I can open it, it's been shut for so long because I've only used it once. So it's numbered, has all this doohickey stuff right here. And then you look through the book and it tells you what you're supposed to do, as well as, I think it labels which ones of these you're supposed to use. So once I find out which one I'm supposed to use for which, there we go. All right. Nope, it just says forward, long. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna figure this out. So I'm gonna grab a spark plug and find out which thread pattern down here matches, and it's probably one of these two because that's what it looks like. And once we do that, we'll plug it in, we'll crank it over, we'll get the number, we'll write it up there so y'all can see it. That's the first test, which compression shouldn't be a problem because this thing runs and it runs good. Problem is, I'm wondering if it's blow by. I don't know if the rings set right, and if they didn't, then I gotta rebuild it anyway, new rings probably. Which pushes me to another whole entire factor of, do I want a bigger engine or stick with this one and see what it does. All right, well, let's get into this. All right, and just as I suspected, it is called an M14. That's the thread pitch and all that. So right now I'm going to set y'all down. We're going to grab the gauge, and it's just like an air hose. Clips in, secures, it's in there. I like to take this when I'm doing this by myself and put it up here as close as I can to seeing it while I'm cranking it over, so that I can see the dial, and when it stops, I stop, because I do a lot of this by myself anyway. So let's get to doing this. All right, like I said, everything's hooked up. Let's hop in the car and see if we can see this gauge. We can see the gauge, and then we can crank it over. Oh. All right, we can see the gauge right there. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna start turning this thing over and making sure that we can get a reading. All right, so we got a reading. Let's check it. All right, so it's about 160. What we're gonna get over here, pop my marker off, making sure it's not a Sharpie. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 160. 160 for number 2. All right, we'll probably just go down the even list because it's right there, and then we'll go down the odd list. I'm going to knock this out now. And number 4. Number 4 is at about 154. Number 6. $154 again. Number 8. This is number 8. It's not looking good. It's about 139. Number 1. one's about 146. Number 3. All right, number 3 looks about 156. Number 5. Number 5 is looking about 152. Last but not least, number 7. We're looking at about 152, 151 on this one too. All right, so the results are in for compression. I wanted to rewrite this again when we do the leak down. But I mean, this thing's gonna get rebuilt again anyway. But here's the numbers, so they're pretty consistent between 357 and 4 and 6. This one's a little bit high, this one's a little bit low, that one's a little bit low. So, all in all, it sounds like a good motor. Just having a little issues. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna get this wrapped up for the evening, but when we come back, we're gonna do the leak down. And then after that, you'll probably see this thing pulled out. So, yeah, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun and sit down and clean up and go live on YouTube for just a little bit. So, yeah. All right, well, it's a new day. Oh, I'm really not feeling this. So, today, instead of doing the leak down test in the car, it's going to make it easier if I take the engine out of the car so that I can turn it over by hand and make sure that all the valves are good in the right spots. So I'm going to go ahead and just yank this puppy out. So yeah. I don't want to see it for the 50th time on this car in the past like 4 weeks. So I'm just going to crank on this, and yeah, y'all are just gonna jump to the next segment of this being on there. And yeah, I could do a time lapse, but I don't see the point, so let's just go to the next part. Have this thing out, because there's no point in me doing multiple clips to show you taking this engine out for the 4th time. So I'm going to do this. All right, about an hour and a half later, taking my time, doing it right, finding all my stuff. It's out. It is out. It is out. Oh, yeah, stuff caught on fire. Let's see what caught on fire. Caught on fire right next to here. A little burn spot right here. It's soft, but let's save the wire. Little burn spot on here. All right there, but it didn't get too far, so not too bad. So yeah, now we have it out. We're gonna take the alternator off, take a couple other things off to do this leak down, because I know for a fact I need to put new seals in, because this seal spewed oil everywhere. And it even looks like that's part of the culprit right there. So I might have to pop this back out where the cam bearings are and get a new one and put it back in. So that might be my rear culprit. My front culprit is my front main seal. It spewed it everywhere. So, yes, this was just a quick update on pulling this motor. Now, I'm going to get this other part done, and you'll be here for it. So I'm calling it a night, and I'll get back to it hopefully tomorrow. If not, doesn't matter to y'all. It'll be 2 seconds and it'll be a new day. So, yes, let's get back to this the next day. All right, jumping into today. Yeah, so it wasn't that long for y'all to wait. Engine is pulled apart a little bit. Pull the alternator off, pull the water pump off. A little recap for me. So we got our compression numbers. Now we're going to jump into what's called a leak down test. What a leak down test is, a leak down test tells you how much pressure is in each cylinder and how much leakage of that pressure there is. So as you put in air pressure, there is a certain amount of leak that you're going to have. You're almost guaranteed never to have 100%, which means no leak down, or no leaks at all. You got your compression rings, you got your valves, and anything else that could possibly go wrong, even cracks in the block. So we did a valve job on this engine. We've also put new rings in it, so it shouldn't have any of those problems, but I think it does, and I think it's from the rings. That is my ultimate theory, because the rings and the block, at the top of the block, they read something like 40 thousandths or something. At the bottom of the block, they got really, really close to max for what the standard bore would be. And the max gap for those rings, which is an issue because I need them to not be so wide. But I did order standard rings, and as far as I know, this block has not been bored. But depending on what happens with this, and then after that, I have a decision to make if this goes the way I think it's going to go. So we're going to hop into this, and a detailed thing I'm going to explain as we do this. You need an air compressor, and you need a leak down tester. And our leak down tester I bought off Amazon. They're not very expensive, so they don't come with a whole lot of parts. You just have to make sure you have the right thread. That's the right thread. M14 is the right thread. So you have this adapter for that. Alright, so that twists on there. And then this twists into the, just like on the compression tester, it goes where the spark plug goes. The only difference between a compression test and, well, can't say the only difference, the way you do it is different. You have to turn the engine over with the starter really for a compression test. That shows how much compression, how much PSI is in each cylinder under compression. Well, a leak down is going to show how much pressure is sustained in your cylinder, so whatever the leak is. So you get to do that by hand, because you have to turn it just to where these valves aren't having compression on the valves. So as I went through before, I made sure, like I can do this one, that one's solid to do, because both of my valves are up, and then so that should mean the exact opposite is good. So whatever cylinder that is, 4 and 3, I can do those right now, and I'll probably start out with those. So with our gauge, which after we screw this in, our gauge shows a certain PSI, and the easiest way I've been taught, so you don't have to do any math whatsoever, you put 100 PSI in there, and then from that 100 PSI, you go and see how much PSI is leaking. Normally the gauges are the same. So what that would mean is this gauge would be 100 PSI, this gauge would be 100 PSI, and then whatever is leaking down to where it's sustaining like 90, that would be technically a 10% loss. So we are going to slap this on here, hook up an air hose to it, and start cranking down the pressure and put it at 100 PSI, and that's what we're going to do. It's going to get loud in here because my compressor is going to kick on, because this just takes a lot of air, especially with a 100-foot hose and everything else, and little leaks. So, but we're going to get on this. So Okay, so you see that there's not 100 psi in here. I wish there was. This is about 95, and that is low compression or low leakage. So this the cylinder back here, which is, what is that, 2, 4, 6, 6, number 6, is leaking almost none. All right, so now we'll go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and I'm praying that my piston rings are good. So right now I'm going to go and find the next one with the valves that are correct and or open, excuse me, closed, and go from there. So that's good. That's almost 100% solid. So the only place I hear it leaking down is into the crankcase, which is good too, because it relieves through all these holes in the cylinder head, and it relieves from other places in the block. So let's get to the next one. All right, so we're at 100 psi. And see, we're at about 95, 94. So we're doing good. That's horrible. And that's my cylinder that's bad. But that's the one that has it. Alright, so final numbers. Alright, they're all pretty crappy on right here, 1 and 5. 5 is still decent-ish. Or I mean, 1 is still decent-ish. It has an exhaust leak, so I mean, I can't really help that. That's why that number is bad. So cylinder 5 is my culprit of why I have such, I mean, I have a lot of leak down in 5. So what that means is I have basically 34% of my compression is going out through the crankcase, and it's either due to the rings are turned wrong, or the other factor is the cylinder's not good. So I'm going to crank this over one more time and see what happens with cylinder 5. I'm just going to go around a few times, and once I do that, I'm going to see if it just is at a bad point, and if it is, that's good in one aspect but bad in another, because I got to find out why this is having such a leak down. 2 is if the cylinder, the actual cylinder, even though it's been looked at, cleaned up, and there was nothing wrong with it before, I'm guessing that now there is. So let me turn this thing over a few times, see if we can get the piston all the way down on like the compression stroke. So everything's closed, it's ready to open up, and yeah, hopefully I don't have any leak then, but still I have a leak, pretty good leak in cylinder 6. But now that kind of opens my eyes to possibly being something different. My cam bearings, I'm scared to death I put them in wrong too. So my cam bearings are the next one. So yeah, because if I put them in wrong, that means I got to pull it out, look at the cam, make sure it's not damaged, and then once I assess it, look down, look at my bearings, and make sure they're all in order the way they're supposed to be. So yeah, let's check out cylinder 6 first. Alright, so there's a point in where the piston, I guess the cylinder wall needs to be honed a little bit more, because we just jumped up 10%. just off of moving the piston. So what that tells me is, as the piston's going up and down, as it's hitting a certain point, all the compression in the engine on cylinder 6 is just going into the crankcase and creating a whole lot of pressure in the crankcase, which can create a whole lot of oil pressure in the bottom end, which would shove oil out, leading to a whole bunch of leaks anyway. All right, well, I didn't expect the numbers I got. My numbers are decent throughout most of it. I don't like that this valve leaks. I think it's bent. And if it is, I need to possibly order another valve and replace that one. And but this one's going to have to come, or excuse me, the cylinder head's going to have to come out because apparently cylinder 6 has to be honed even more. So cylinder 6 is part of my problem. My other part of my problem is a bent valve right here that just leaks exhaust. Other than that, all the other ones look pretty good. Cylinder 8, I don't know why the compression on it was 139. That just doesn't make any sense when everything else is in the 50s, 60s. So I understand why one had 146, because I have a leaky valve. I got a leaky valve too. I feel you. But the next video with this, we're going to tear it down and basically rebuild it again. My question for myself was, if it was having a bad leak down test and we had poor numbers, then I was just going to look at doing a stroker kit and calling it a day. Just getting a couple more cubic inches, a couple more horsepower, and building this thing the way I want to build it eventually. But I'm happy I'm not having to do that right this second. My issue now is, though, the piston rings back here in cylinder 6 are possibly ruined, and I possibly have to order a whole new kit for just cylinder 6. So yeah. Well, we're going to tear this down and take a look at bearings and everything else because it's broken in good. I just have leaks everywhere. All the oil is on the outside instead of the inside now. So hopefully it's helped you. If it did, give me a like. If it didn't, cool. Put a comment down below and give me your experience, your thoughts, your contemplations towards what I need to do or whatever needs to happen next. Check out Teespring, check out Patreon, check out Instagram, check out TikTok, check out all of them. Because soon to be, I'm going to do another giveaway. I've got one company on board right now. I'm hopefully going to get a couple.